Thanks for tuning in to the Mission Matters podcast, where we feature successful, mission-driven leaders committed to creating a positive change in the world. Our mission with this channel is to inspire other leaders by providing industry insights, new ideas, and inspiring stories from the pros.
Hello again, Paul Fife here, host of this show where I talk with leaders heading up mission-focused organizations, always leading from the heart, inspiring others, including me, and making a difference in our community. This episode is sponsored by Gregory Media, otherwise known as PGM. We're a certified B Corporation. To learn more about what PGM does and what a B Corp is, follow paulgregorymedia.com. Excited about today's episode. I have Marcela Sweeney, Executive Director of Educare West DuPage. She began working at this organization in, I want to say, May of 2012 as a master teacher, and quickly moved into the school director position. And then in 2020, became its executive director. So welcome, Marcela. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Hey, I just noticed my shirt's purple and it matches the banner. I didn't do that intentionally, but I'm just looking at the screen right now. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time today. I want to cover a couple of things with you today and let our listeners know about what you do and also some things through a leadership lens. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? What led you into early childhood education to begin with? And what's that journey been like?
Hi. I've always known I wanted to be part of early childhood in some way. When I was a young child, I was from a family of Mexican immigrants. Both of my parents are from directly Mexico, and so Spanish was my first language. And as a child growing up in a predominantly non-Hispanic community, there were different challenges that as a child who only spoke Spanish came across. And so that kind of led me to really be interested in being part of early childhood and also in a dual language community. So I went on to get my undergraduate from U of I in psychology and Spanish, and really just helped me understand how to work with people and all different kinds of people. And then I got my master's degree in early childhood education with a master's degree in the art of teaching early childhood, along with my bilingual endorsement and my infant specialist certificate from Erikson University. And I'm currently in school actually for my special ed approval and just continuing that journey of always learning. Before coming to Educare, I worked for the Office of Head Start's Training and Technical Assistance Center in the state of Illinois. So I was providing training and technical assistance to different Head Start grantees in Illinois. And through that experience came upon Educare and the whole idea that Educare really uses Head Start as a basis or foundation, but brings all of the good of Head Start and state funding and other funding to really make it more than a Head Start organization. So what drew me to Educare was not only that, but some of the core features and quality components that make Educare schools really unique and cutting edge in the field.
So maybe we could talk about some of those quality components, but I got to say, with all your academic background, you don't just preach and promote academia and early childhood education, but you're living it. And you're, like you said, you're still going to school now for your special ed. Is it designation or?
Approval.
Approval.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's a lot. I was going to go over some things, some leadership challenges and successes, but I think I'm going to save that for last because we're on the subject of Educare anyway. So let's just start by telling our listeners what is Educare West DuPage. And why it's important. And you did mention some of the key components of that, so we'll get into that next.
Yeah, so Educare West DuPage is part of a national network of early childhood schools, which means that there are 25 other Educare schools in the country, and there's only 2 Educares in Illinois, and Educare West DuPage is the only school in a suburb, which highlights the fact that needs and poverty exists in suburbs as well as urban communities. So our school really shines a spotlight on the fact that there's needs in suburban areas as well. So we, as an Educare school, we commit to different quality components, which mean that We believe that it makes a difference when you hire highly qualified staff. We believe that low teacher-student ratios are really important. We have a family engagement team that we practice intensive family engagement, where we partner with families to really come alongside parents in their journey of being in their child's educational life. And we practice continuity of care too. So as infants enter our school, they stay with the same cohort of children and teachers throughout their birth to 3 years, and then only transition once, knowing that when you have consistency in children's lives, it makes a difference, especially in our youngest learners. So we serve children from birth, so from as young as 6 weeks old to 5 years old. And we serve 192 children and families, so 180 children, so 102 preschoolers, 3 to 5 years of age, and then 80 birth to 3 students. And then an additional 10 pregnant moms are served by our school.
Wow. And what community is that in?
Yeah, so we serve the West Chicago community. So families that come to our school need to either be working or living in West Chicago.
Okay.
And we're open year round as well. So we really answer the need for families who are either working or in school.
Wow. And I'm going to ask the question that some of our listeners might be thinking is, you think of a 6-week-old to a 1-year-old infant, do they really need education? And I know you have data to back this up. So can we just touch on that for a second?
Yes. So I know that is a common question. Just what does a day look like for infants? Right. But yes, in all of our classrooms, we use the creative curriculum, which is aligned to the Illinois Early Learning Standards. And we use those primary caregiving routines throughout the day for opportunities for introducing language to students, responding to their needs, and really establishing those secure attachments. So from our youngest infants all the way through preschool, there's lesson planning that happens. There's data that's being collected on an ongoing basis so that we're really individualizing what we do for all of our students. So
I'm starting to see a difference between this versus, say, a daycare.
Yes. So we are DCFS licensed as a childcare facility, but apart from that, the way that we operate is that we are funded federally through Head Start and Early Head Start. And we also receive state grants through Preschool for All expansion and prevention initiative. So with all of our funding streams, there are different rules and regulations and supports that guide us in making sure that the quality of instruction that's happening in our school is really supporting children so that they are successful not only in school, but in life.
All right. So that's a clear delineation between a daycare and early childhood learning, I guess. To really put a fine point on it, what is the unique difference with Educare?
Yeah, so the difference is that our commitment to those high quality practices, we use data. So as an Educare school, so backing up a little bit, the reason why Educare was invented or came to be was back in the year 2000, the very first Educare started on the south side of Chicago, which was Educare Chicago. And really the idea came apart from how do we make all of the available early childhood funding streams something more? So how do we put those all together to create a place where all children, no matter what their circumstance of birth is, to have access to the highest quality, not only place, but access to experiences that are of the highest quality. So we do that by our instruction, by also providing a space that is designed for children and designed for children's curiosity and learning. We also do that by engaging families and partnering with them So we believe that if we come alongside parents and support them in building their relationship with their children, that will support the child long term as well. So we do collect data on all different levels. We collect child data, family data, and staff data. And all of the Educare schools collect data with a battery of different assessments that are collected. We use that for internal reasons, for internal supports, for staff development and professional development for our staff. And all of the Educare schools then compile that information and send it to our national partners at Frank Porter Graham. And it's used for different policy efforts to basically show at both the state level and at the national level that when we invest in early childhood, it makes long-term lasting effects on society.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, so that's the benefit of having a national organization, right?
Yeah.
So I have to ask, is there an enrollment fee for the child?
There is not. So we are administrators of the Child Care Assistance Program as well. So for a child to come to our school, they need to meet our different eligibility requirements, which is based on income and other risk factors and needs. So the fees that parents pay are based on their own situation. So if, for example, they're a student, they provide to us an example or a copy of their school schedule, and then the state places a monthly fee for their child. So it could be anywhere from $0 a month to $2 a month to based on their income.
Okay.
And that amount is set by the state for only the child care hours of the day. So we do have before care and after care. So for the core part of the day, which is how we're mostly funded by our federal and state grants, there's no fee, but only for the before and after care hours.
Okay. So let's pivot then to the funding, right? So you're getting funding from the state and the government right now. I'll talk about what happened in the past, but for right now, you're getting state and funds. So how much of federal funding and state funding grants make up your budget?
So we are now about 98% grant funded.
Okay.
So both with our federal and state grants.
So our federal government and state government are putting a priority on early childhood education, which is great to hear. And then the other, I guess, 2 or 3% are from private donations.
Yes.
Okay.
And so as a nonprofit, we know that the different quality commitments that I've mentioned, as far as highly qualified staff, low teacher-student ratios, a commitment to professional development, all of those things cost money, right? When we're employing people who are highly credentialed, because we know that makes a difference, and we also support our staff in going back to school and furthering their credentials and education. And so that is something we truly believe has so much value, and are proud to say we want it to be a safe place for children to learn and grow, but we also want it to be a safe place for our staff to learn and grow, because teaching is really an art, which takes a lot of reflection and skill to do.
Yeah, well, we've heard that for ages, right? How teachers are kind of underpaid resources in our community, and it should really be the opposite. And I don't know if I really like, or if I'm happy with that 2% number of private donations. So that would be the thing to really concentrate on and get up there, right? Because it's only going to make the school better.
Right.
And it's going to enable you to hire very qualified staff. And again, that goes to safety as well, I think. So let's just go back a little bit, because this is a leadership series. So I want to talk a little bit about your leadership and your challenges and successes. And one of those was, we were talking earlier about a pivot, about your funding. So we know that you're now funded by the state and federal grants, and you're the actual beneficiary of that. But that wasn't always the case, was it?
No. So when we first opened, Educare West DuPage in 2012 as a delegate of all of our funding streams. So over the years, we realized that in order for long-term sustainability and other efforts, that it really made sense for us to be able to try to become our own grantee for our funding. So we were able to do that through a lot of different, challenges and barriers. And just we continued to persist, and we were able to become our own grantee for both our state and federal funds. And
Well, that's a great leadership pivot, right? Because you're sitting around waiting to see what other organizations are going to divvy up to you through their appropriations committee. And I'm sure they were generous, but you're more reactive than proactive. And so that's a great leadership pivot to be, take control over that, I think. So kudos to you for doing that. I wanted to talk about one other thing. So that's becoming your own grantee. What other challenges have you had as a nonprofit leader? I know we were talking earlier about partnerships.
yeah, so as a new organization, so we were brand new in 2012, apart from our school and all of our staff being new and wanting to really establish ourselves and achieving different circles of quality. So in the state of Illinois, we have achieved the highest level of quality, which is called the Gold Circle of Quality, since its inception in 2016, I believe. So we were really focused on making sure that the services and program was of the highest quality, as we still are. But apart from that, we really have been working, especially in the past 5 years or so, in continuing to establish ourselves in the community. So as a new organization, that was a challenge too. So we're working kind of internally and also externally with organizations who have been here for a very long time, and just really wanting to be a part of the community and really continue to start to be known in the community. So we know that we can't do the work alone. So we're always kind of looking to establish partners in order to enrich the work that we do as well.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of persistence, right? And resiliency, and probably a lot of other things. But I've heard somebody say, and this is actually a podcast that we did a couple months ago by the time this airs, by Rick Lochner. It was the second one we did with him for nonprofits. And he talks about nonprofits can't exist in a bubble, and they can't exist without for-profit relationships, or they wither and die. So that's what kind of reminds me of that. So I guess as a new organization starting to form and introduce your business to these new for-profits for the first time, that takes years to build. It takes years to build trust. It takes years to build a relationship. So it's a long game. Yeah. And so now here we are, 2024. It looks like you've had some success with that.
Yes, definitely. And it's definitely a team effort. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my wonderful team as well. We have the best staff that there is out there, and members of the leadership team as well. And so as a team, we really have made concerted efforts to being part of, whether it's community organizations or meetings in the community and supports, and really trying to invite partners in to see how we could partner. I'm also a member.
Do you mean nonprofit partners?
Both nonprofit and for-profit, and also our local education agency, our local school district, other social service agencies. I'm also a member, or on the directors of the Western DuPage Chamber of Commerce. I'm one of the board members. And so through that relationship too, just always thinking about how we could work with other businesses in the area as well. So as we provide a service to potentially the children of people in different business areas, we can kind of partner and think about how we could work together as well.
Sure. I love the Chamber of Commerce as a business resource for sure. Any part, I mean, thank you so much for educating us, to use that word, on what it is that Educare does. I think there was an element of that I didn't even know, which is the at-risk portion of that, and the subsidy of that. So that's very interesting. So it's no wonder that you work with other nonprofit organizations that may need your assistance, and vice versa, I would imagine too, right? So yeah, thank you for your time and for being here and sharing your thoughts. I would just ask you, do you have any parting thoughts before we close it out?
Sure. We're always recruiting staff and children and partners. So if you have children or no children from the birth to 5 years old, we have a wonderful dual language school that really supports children and families in their journey and success in education and life.
Dual language. I don't know if we went over that, but dual English and Spanish, right?
Yes, English and Spanish. And so we support our dual language model by our staffing plans. So in all of our classrooms, we have staff who at least 2 out of 3 staff members in each classroom speak Spanish. And so they remain in their designated language, which really supports both English and Spanish growth and development.
Wow. Wow. And any leadership mantra that you live by or ethos?
I think as I reflect on my leadership style, I think a couple words come to mind. It's always important to be thoughtful and intentional in leadership.
Always, always. Well, Marcela, thank you so much for joining us. I hope our listeners learned quite a bit about Educare, West DuPage, and also just about some of the leadership successes and challenges you've had. I know I've learned something, so thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Till next time, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Mission Matters podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.